Hello, everyone.
Look at that. You got a Casey hello everyone to kick us off.
For the very first time.
I know. I wasn't even prepared for it. I was a little shocked. That's why there's that little pause after it that I'm not editing out.
And welcome to A Little Bit Unhinged.
And even though you guys already know that, Casey's here.
Hi.
That part had to stay. Garrett, by the way, I don't know if I ever say my name when we introduce these. I think I just say Casey's here.
Yeah, I don't think you ever say it.
What a fun realization in episode
15?
Yes. 15 or 16. I guess. Yeah, sure.
We keep track of these so well.
Don't we? Listen, even though we always record these a day before you hear them, if there was a circumstance where we didn't, it would be a little bit more difficult to keep track of. Also, more importantly than all of this jibba jabba, we have our special, wonderful guest back. Say hi, special, wonderful guest.
Hi, everyone.
That's Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Thanks for bringing the Chinese food. That's a very important task that you did.
That's
well
right.
made.
You can always count on me.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth.
And back for another episode.
Back for another episode. Your previous episode has released? No.
Well, yeah, we're recording a day before
Yeah.
we released this one.
Yeah. So obviously it must have. I guess, I mean, yes, by the time you hear this, it must have. All right, never mind. Don't ask me about it. Anyway, she is back, and you will have definitely heard her. But you're mad at me because you remember how recently you've heard her since you listened to this. So anyway, welcome back.
Thank you.
Before we get to our topic today, which is books, which I'm very excited to talk about, even though I'm going to be cheating, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
I thought that you might be, but I didn't know how. I knew there was going to be some bullshittery happening.
There's going to be a little bit of bullshittery. But before we get into the bullshittery, we have something that neither of you know that we're going to talk about here. But I thought this is the best place to talk about it because we'll be able to revisit this around the time that it happens. November 29th, the University of Utah travels to the University of Central Florida for a football contest.
It sure does.
And you and I have spoken about setting a bet for that. And I thought this is the place where we should officially make that happen.
Oh, gosh. Well, the chances of UCF winning are pretty
good.
slim.
No, Utah's bad. This is going to end up being a close. The line on this thing is going to end up being really close. I think it's going to be this is actually a good game for us to wager on because it's going to be up in the air.
Okay.
Yeah, Utah's starting quarterback is injured for like the 7th straight season. They've got me and my brother and our friend. We've been calling him names like future late night security guard, quarterback, future bank manager. He's bad. He's a freshman. He'll be fine. Anyway, it's going to be fairly even. I think it'll be a good teams that are really close together. So I think this is going to be a good bet.
Okay, we definitely have to go by the line, though, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever the line's going to be. I'm gonna bet right now that the line's going to be UCF will be favored by 3. That's what I'm going to bet because they're home. They're going to get the home field 3-point advantage. That's what I think.
I think it's going to be the opposite.
Oh, we'll see. Let's not bet on that. We can't bet on both.
We won't bet on that, no.
Because that's crazy. Casey, you want in on this somehow?
I don't know. I got distracted by the mascot.
The mascots are about.
I heard only portions of it. I know about the game, and I know it's coming up, but I didn't keep track of what you just said for the bet. Because, again, the mascots are losing their minds.
The mascots are very excited to be alive, as they always are. And you will hear them about. And I won't edit it unless I have to, so you can enjoy dog noises.
Yep, there it goes.
Yeah, that might be a spot where you might not enjoy the sound of the dog. There wasn't any real sound.
Well, it did pull my mic off,
Yeah,
so they might
that's
hear
the
that.
sound you'll hear. Anyway, my suggestion for the bet is that the loser cooks for the winner.
It's actually Probably not a bad one. Since this is being thrown on me, I have not
I know. I wanted it from your heart.
any suggestions.
And it's just after Thanksgiving, which is neither here nor there. That's when it's going to be. It'll be a nice Christmas time. Matter of fact, this can be one of the first Christmas things that even is. Like, we'll be one of the first Christmas appointments for whatever it is.
All right, deal. I'm in.
Okay.
No notes.
You got it. It's live. Did it. Casey's witness. She'll notarize the document.
I am a notary, so that'll work.
I think I might have known that. I don't know.
I didn't know that. Is that real?
No, I lied.
Okay.
Nope, that I didn't know that.
Okay.
I was just going to go with it, but somebody had to call me out.
And as you know, anything that's said on this podcast is legal and I was going to say legal tender, but that's not quite right.
Legal and binding.
Legal and binding. Yes, thank you. It is legal tender if you send me some. Okay, great. Now we got that out of the way, that very important business. Let's talk about books. The first thing I want to start off with both of you is what do you remember as like your earliest things that you liked about books? Your earliest book that you liked or book series that you remember, like an early fond book situation.
My favorite like baby book was Goodnight Moon.
Goodnight Moon.
But I would say my first time I really had like a favorite author was Bruce Cavell. And the book series was My Teacher is an Alien.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yes.
What about time in your life was that?
Second grade, maybe.
Nice.
Those books are
Started early.
for like. I was obsessed with. I read all his series, loved him. He and like R.L. Stein were like
R.L.
neck
Stein.
and neck with
Sure.
the Goosebumps. I like the Goosebumps too,
Yeah,
but
Goosebumps.
Bruce Cavell was my number one.
Wow. The earliest books I can think of remembering to read is all the, God, I think I'm going to call this wrong, but the Mr. Face series. They were just like the shapes and the faces, like Mr. Happy and Mr. Sad. Like Mr. Sad was like a blue triangle, and then Mr. Happy was a smile face, and there's like a pink square or something. And they were little tiny books. They were like maybe 10 pages or something in the child style. They were hot in the streets. I wish I could remember their name properly. I might have to look it up while we're sitting here talking because I don't want to miss them. And my cheat thing that I was going to talk about is far more than I absorb books. I was a big graphic novels person, so I'm going to interject that in here in my bookery.
That noise was a chair scooting because of the tennis ball.
We have enjoyment mascot antics. So when I was a kid, X-Men, it was X-Men early run in the 80s and stuff was amazing. And so I tried to get my hands on hand-me-down old X-Men comics and X-Men graphic novels. So X-Men was one of the first things that I really looked forward to reading, the graphic novels, when I was a kid. Casey?
So I guess I didn't really like reading when I was a kid. I didn't like reading in school. The first time that I really liked a book, I think, was Dragon Song by Anne McCaffrey. I think that's the author's name. In like 6th grade, and I remember the teacher gave us all a variety of books and split us off into groups, and that was the one that I chose. Other people picked like Where the Red Fern Grows, and thank goodness I did not pick that sad-ass book. But so I really enjoyed that one. And then, so I guess that, and then later on in high school, I found a couple of other books that I enjoyed. But for the most part, it wasn't until college that I actually started reading for fun.
Mm-hmm.
What changed? Was it just the learning process? Was it just age? Like what made you kind of want to start reading for fun? Do you remember?
I'm I'm not really sure. I think that there was. It might have been one of my English classes where we covered. Because I had one professor. Because I had to take one of the. Even though I was a science and engineering major, or really just a science major, I still had to take a couple of higher level English classes because of the way that the requirements worked. And there was one professor in British Lit who talked about, even if you don't like these stories, give other stories a chance.
Okay.
So my mom used to read a lot when I was a kid. And so I had read some of her books. I never really liked them. And then that professor kind of talked about, there's so many books out there, so many different genres, like give stuff a chance.
Sure.
And I think also because I wasn't in high school and wasn't being forced to read.
Right.
And I was so focused on my science classes that I eventually wanted something different besides just TV.
Sure.
And that's how I ended up at books.
Sure. That makes sense. But you were always about reading?
Always.
Yeah.
I was that girl who read in between classes. I would read anything that I could get my hands on.
Nice.
Voracious reader, I might even say.
Nice. All right, I'm going to show you guys the books that I'm talking about. There's
Yes.
what they were. The Little Miss
I've definitely seen
Oh,
those.
series.
looks
Yes.
familiar.
Yeah, if you need to look them up, Little Miss or Little Mister series with just the cartoon things that are just like one thing, like Mr. Strong and Mr. Sneeze, which is a horrifying character to think about, being trapped as a sneeze. What about, okay, so did you find, is there a style of book that you like now the most, and did you find that changing over your life?
I've always really been a big sci-fi fantasy. I've gone through phases of like with how serious I wanted that to be, ranging from like the Dragon Riders of Pern, like Anne McCaffrey, like you've said,
Yeah.
to Terry Pratchett, which is humor. But
Discworld and the like?
Discworld, yeah. I mean, that's my favorite series of all time.
Right. Well, you jumped ahead, but great.
Oh,
Spoilers. No,
wait,
it's fine.
I have another one too,
Okay,
so
good.
we can discuss.
Okay.
But it's always seemed to be my favorite books, and I don't stray too far from our sci-fi fantasy, that genre.
Okay. Casey?
So I guess the first series that I really read was the Shannara series.
Right. Also a fan of that one. Probably mine too.
And one thing about it, which spoilers for anybody who hasn't read them, but they are very old books at this point. When I started reading it and they were talking about the tree being so important, I was like, that girl is going to turn into a damn tree by the end of this. Because I had played, I think the game was Final Fantasy Adventure, but it might have been another Secret of Mana game or something.
Yeah.
But so I'd seen that in the video game and then called it in the book, so I just felt super validated.
Well done. Well
Even
done.
though I think that that's in plenty of other cultural stuff
Sure.
and older stuff. But it was still cool being as young as I was and figuring it out.
Yeah.
But then since then, after fantasy, I have tried sci-fi, and there's plenty of sci-fi stuff I like too, but I think for the most part, I usually trend towards thrillers nowadays.
Right.
And I can't think of anything specific because I never look at book titles unless it's something that other people have suggested, and then I'll remember a title, but right now I'm blanking on them.
Is it something about those that they have to be a specific kind that you like you just won't like any random one, and so you'd rather have that reference?
Well, no, I'll read random ones. That's why I don't know their...
Oh, gotcha.
Because I don't know the titles, because
Gotcha.
I'll just go through and find something on recommended Kindle,
Okay,
whatever, and
right,
be like,
and
yeah,
just-
that sounds
just
good. It's
read it.
50 cents, and
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
read it.
Yeah. I most of my life, like the series that I probably read the most books from is the Dragonlance. It's in the D&D setting by Weiss and Hickman. I've read a lot of Weiss and Hickman. So I read a lot of those, but more, and I do have a bunch of random fantasy novels, because if the storyline has just enough magic and just enough political drama in it that I'm in, I'm like, okay, that works for me. Though more recently, I've read more books about football people and their story about becoming the first person to do something or developing something new. Stories like that are the stories that I've been kind of into more lately, but I still enjoy when I do sit down and read a non-graphic novel. I do enjoy to read some fantasy still.
Speaking of Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman,
Yeah.
have you read the Deathgate cycle?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. I am about to reread it, and I was going to get your opinion on it.
No, I haven't. I like almost everything they've ever done, though. Like just the way that they write stories, I dig. So
I love them too,
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why I really want to reread this series and like revisit it. And I'm excited. So
yeah, well, good. You can come back and tell us about it.
we'll discuss.
Come back and tell us about it. Okay, so you talked about your favorite series, Discworld.
Yes,
You said you had another one.
I do. It's from good old Brandon Sanderson. It's the Mistborn series.
Is that series still going on?
It's in cycle 2 right now, and then he's going to have a cycle 3 and 4 apparently.
How many books were in cycle 1?
3.
Oh, okay.
And cycle 2 is going to have. It might be finished.
It's got 4 at least.
I think it has
out.
4. I think that might be the final one.
Okay.
And then he's gonna. And then this year we're the 5th Stormlight Archive book is coming out, so that's what he's been doing right now. But then I think he said he was going to get back on Mistborn again, maybe.
Did he take over the Wheel of Time? Who took over Wheel of Time? He did.
Yeah.
He took over.
He
Wheel
finished
of Time.
it up.
And it's finished.
Yep.
Okay. Which is why they could do that TV series that everyone loved.
Well, I mean, HBO has proved that you don't have to have the finished
No, I guess
series
not.
to do the show. But yeah, it's
I mean, they did that
Maybe
for
they
Game of
improved it.
Thrones too.
Well,
so.
yeah.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. They pushed the fast forward button on Game of Thrones. What a weird thing. I know
then-
this is the super off topic thing, but it's so crazy how quickly they undid everything they did for no reason.
Yeah.
And that's maybe why you do wait for the books to be finished.
Sure.
Well, I think that they even knew, because I remember when the series first started and they advertised that D&D, I forgot what their names actually are, that they had talked to him and gotten his like overarching story
Right.
and knew how it was supposed to end.
Right.
So in theory, this is what he intended,
Yep.
but then it fell very flat because they did it too quickly,
Yeah.
or they just deviated from what he told them, or maybe he just realized that that's never going to work out the way that he had intended, because there are so many things in that story that just don't make sense.
Yeah, they just don't make sense. And it's so blatantly. You know, it's like it doesn't make sense. Like you built a show for people to look at in a certain lens, and then you failed that lens against your own product. Like that's what's so frustrating about it. If it was good-natured screwing up, where you felt like they understood the lens it was going to be viewed and they tried, it just didn't work. That's one thing. But they just said, "Fuck it."
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, sorry, that was off topic. Casey, how about you? What's your favorite book series or books or book?
What is it? Well, I guess the series that I point to the most, and I don't know that it is actually my favorite, but it's a story that I really enjoy, is the House Witch series,
House Witch series.
which I just stumbled across randomly. Like I got it on a huge sale. I got the first 2 books for like 25 cents each or some shit on Kindle. And I read them both and just loved them. And now I've read all the ones in the series so
Nice.
far, which is like 7 books.
Is it an ongoing series?
Yes, yeah. So there's going to be, I think, at least 2 more.
Okay.
And the first one, so it was a trilogy to start with, and then it picked up like 20 years later kind of
okay.
thing. So it is splitting it off, but it also is just a continuation of the same world. A lot of the same characters are coming back, or their kids come back kind of thing.
Okay.
I like that though, because sometimes after a book series ends, I want to know what happened to the to the people, the story. Further down the road as they age and grow.
It's probably a sign of a good story when you want that. When your readers are like, I'm so connected to these characters that I want to know what happens to them.
But I will say there are plenty of there's a lot of books that I read that I really enjoy, because I have read some of the Mistborn and some of the others that are generally popular, which now I'm blanking on which ones.
Like Fourth Wing?
I haven't read Fourth Wing or Avatar.
Oh yeah, that's Akatar is the big one in the streets right now.
Yeah, it's pretty big right now, which I have not read because the premise of it seems, I don't know. I know I will eventually go read it just because of how big it is, and I will be curious because that's usually what happens. But just the idea of killing a person and then your prison is to go live a life of luxury, which that might not be exactly what it is, but that's how it's always been portrayed to me, and I'm just like, that sounds a little far-fetched, a little too silly.
It might be hard to connect to, but people love it so much that I guess they figured it out.
Yeah.
I will say that if you're gonna step into this Sarah J. Maas, is that her name?
Yeah.
World, I might.
Marty.
Yeah. If you're gonna step into the Sarah J. Maas world, I might do Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
I actually like that series better.
Okay.
Are they connected?
They're
By an author.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
But they have the same author, and
At least the same author. Who knows about the story? She's trying not to spoil anything for me in case I read them.
maybe. But they
Stop.
but unfortunately, Throne of Glass is like 7 books long. But I just find it. I think the story plot is stronger than the Akoda.
Strong book recommendation right off the bat. Outside of the books that you like the most, outside of the series that you enjoy the most, is there a book that you are surprised you like?
Ooh.
Or just a different kind of book that you like?
I feel like that about any 50-cent book that I buy.
Just kind of end up being like, all right.
Yeah. Like, there's plenty of them that I read, and I'm like, that's so damn cheesy. But then there's so many that I read, and I'm like, that was pretty good for being so cheap.
Sure. What is the separate? Is it just the books don't do well? And so there still could be some well-written books that just don't do well enough, so they end up having to be 50 cents?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can get some gems out of that. Out of cheap books. I rather like Pride and Prejudice and like those kind of books. Like Pride and Prejudice is the one that I've read the most recently. It's not been recent, but the most recently I like. But I think Sherlock Holmes books, or short stories, they're not. I mean, they're more collected in books. Sherlock Holmes is like the anytime I can, especially because they're public domain basically. They're free there to read those. Those are like my guilty pleasure go back to books. Even though I know everything that goes on in them, I do enjoy a Sherlock Holmes book.
I think if I were to really try to come up with a surprising book, I think Dune. So I didn't think that Dune was really in my wheelhouse.
Okay.
Of books, because it's more, I'm leaning more towards fantasy than sci-fi, although I do love like Three Body Problem. Oh my gosh, one of the best books I've ever read. And that's hard sci-fi. But Dune kind of, I don't know, it's not hard sci-fi either. So it's there's kind of magic in it.
A little bit, yeah. Oh yeah, there's magic in it.
But I just didn't think that I was really going to connect with the storyline just from what I'd seen. But man, I was wrong. It was fantastic.
How many of them have you read?
I've read 2.
Okay.
So I need to read the rest, but...
Because I know that some of them get...
I've heard they
A little
get
weird.
Yeah.
I've heard that they go off the rails.
Yeah, they get. I also heard they go off the rails, but some company has the rights to make the stories in graphic novel, and so I'm waiting for them to finish the Atreides, because I think the Atreides is like the first set of the books in the Dune series, in chronologically. I think, and then they do Marketing, and then they do Dune. I think is what order it goes. I think. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, I was like, oh, if somebody does all of those, I might do all the prequels in graphic novel and then read Dune. I've read half of it. I started a million years ago, and then I stopped. I think maybe when I heard that this movie was in production, I think I started to read it, and then I went, I'll just wait for it to come back on TV. I'll just wait for it to be in the movie. And I did like that I did that because I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I knew nothing about what was going to happen in the movies. Not that the movies may or may not have been close. I don't even know. But it all was a surprise to me, which I was perfectly okay with. There's nothing for me to be disappointed that I read in the book that I didn't see.
I think that it's a pretty good adaptation. It's a fantastic movie. And the adaptation-wise, have you read Dune?
No, but I've seen all the variations of movies and miniseries.
Right.
There was a couple things that they changed that, I don't know, kind of changed the plot of the movie, book, whatever. But I think they did it for reasons. Like, for example, spoiler alert. Ooh, should I say
No,
it?
it's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the book, his sister is born and is like a terrifying 6-year-old child that can is smart and speak. Whereas in the movie, she's still
She's fetus power.
in the womb.
Yeah.
I think they did it to avoid the Twilight Renesmee paradox, which is where you have this CGI child that looks. Ugh.
Yeah, you can't make it fit. The visuals on that would be so bad, even at its best, compared to the rest of the visuals and how practical most of the visuals are, that it makes sense to try to avoid that if you can help it.
So I can kind of see why they did it,
Sure.
but also it removes from us the most satisfying point of Dune, which is when she is the one that kills,
Right.
at the end instead of whoever was in the
kills
movie.
the Galactic Emperor or whatever.
Yeah.
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 Wait, does she kill the Galactic Emperor? I remember her killing
Does
Uncle
she
Dude.
kill-
Uncle Dad Harkonnen or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's who she kills.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Harkonnen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think she kills Baron Harkonnen. Is that who she kills?
Yeah.
Harkonnen, yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember how to pronounce it.
I might not be pronouncing it right either.
Because they did, in the sci-fi miniseries back in the day, they did have a young person playing her.
Okay.
I believe it was somebody who was pretty young. Don't know what age she was. I would have to go look it up. But I think that she did a really good job of portraying like just a super mature, but also looking like a child kind of
Right.
Yeah.
look. And they pulled that off just by having somebody who actually was a young person instead
Right.
of trying to do any kind of weird CGI
Yeah.
stuff to it.
Which, I guess I would have trusted this Dune movie to do that right. I mean, they wouldn't have made a visual that didn't look right. You know what I mean? They wouldn't have made one that was super out of place considering how in place everything else looked. So if they were willing to try it, it would have looked good, I think.
Yeah.
But they weren't willing to try it,
Maybe
which
they
is
just-
okay.
Maybe they just wanted to move the plot of the story up.
Maybe they felt
Like
like
the
changing it
timeline?
up. Yeah.
Instead of waiting around for 6 years.
Yeah, they just went, you know what? We just wanted to make that happen.
And I mean, they did already show who the actress is going to be for the new one
Right.
for that character, and I support aging her up anyway. In general, anytime you can age up a character,
Yeah.
I'm going to support it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like if they go into Children of Dune, because I think that, well, things happen in that one, so makes sense to make her very adult and mature and clearly an adult.
Right. Yeah. 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 Which,
Unless I'm misremembering it, but I think that there's some weird ass shit that happens.
yeah.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think that's in play. But even if there's not in play, if you set it up to where you can get away with just having it be older anyway, it just kind of makes everything a little easier. in a story like this where weird stuff is going to happen, is bound to happen. You just go weird fetus and then weird 12-year-old or whatever you do there. But anyway, I'm all about it. Whatever they want to do. There's very few movies at this point that I go, oh yeah, I'm absolutely going to see this in the theater 100%. But if any Dune situation, it's going to happen. Which is not a book, but I think this still tracked. It's still tracked as a connection, book to movie.
Also, great news, everyone. The mascots are asleep.
The mascots are asleep.
Yes.
We did it. We did it.
Not sure how much has to get edited out in this recording,
Yeah.
but they are asleep now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to
And
be...
they're looking really cute.
There's going to be more editing ahead. But I've gotten some... I'll have some practice by the time you guys listen to this, because I had to do some other dog editing. So, here you go.
Yeah.
It's fine. I pay myself well. I'm not mad about it. I give myself a good salary for editing.
Good.
I put in some work into
deserve
wearing
it.
them out today, too, just for them to still act a fool.
Just for them to be... You know what? We're exciting people. We're exciting people to be around.
I don't
can
blame
help
them
it?
for getting excited about us.
Who can help it? What in the hell were we talking about?
Books.
Books.
Dune.
I think we're on to next subject.
Next subject. Well, I did actually want to talk about books to movies. And if you had any that you can think of, the one I can think of that both movie I read and I liked, and book I read and I liked, and movie that I watched and I liked, and that's Hunt for Red October.
Ooh.
Loved both of those very much.
I love that movie.
Oh man, and the book is good, and the book is not so different. And it's, you know, if you like the way that what's his face, military guy that wrote it,
Tom Clancy?
yeah, Tom Clancy. If you like the way he writes, is perfect. And I like the way he writes in general. It was pretty perfect.
Are we only doing books to movies, or are we doing books to TV?
TV shows counts too. Yeah, 100%.
I have to say, I mentioned earlier that Three Body Problem was one of my favorite books. The TV show, fantastic. It really captured the essence of the book in a way that I did not think was going to be possible.
I still haven't watched it. It keeps popping up, and then I always pick something else. I need to go back and actually watch it soon.
Oh, it's so good. And I mean, they changed things, but especially if you've read all 3 books in the series, you can kind of understand why they've made some of the changes that they did. And it's just... So that's my favorite adaptation.
Excellent. I think whenever you can get people that really like the book to like the movie, I think you've really done something amazing. Especially when it's a non-direct drama, like when there's something fantastical about it, like Hunt for Red October, the caterpillar thing, the whole submarine stuff is just fantastical, and that it could get weird. It could get to a level that maybe you wouldn't like it. And the same with Three Body Problem, with just so much, with the spaceness of it all, there's a possibility that you could have to make some changes. I mean, even just what we talked about with Dune, like just because of the when you have some weird stuff, you might have to make changes for the movie that might make somebody not like it. So if you can do that and people can still like it, that's pretty well done.
Yeah.
On Netflix, who will just burn money to burn money. All right. Casey, do you have a book to other media?
So I've been sitting here thinking about ones that I liked. Wizard of Oz did a really good
Wizard
job.
of Oz. No, that's an underrated one.
Yeah, because it's a classic for both. Because the movie did a lot for technological advances
Yes.
with the transition to color and all of that. And I've seen the scene where, and this is specifically for the movie, obviously this isn't in the book, but the scene where she actually goes from black and white to Technicolor, how it's like a single scene and she opens the door and you see the color.
Yeah.
They actually dressed everybody up to look like they were still black and white and set up the scene to be black and white, but it was shot in color in order to do that. And it's a really cool scene if you watch the background information of it. Like they painted her in the gray paint and everything to make it look black and white so that she could open the door and you could see the color scene.
That's smart. I wouldn't have thought about that's the way they needed to do it, but that makes sense.
Yeah, because when you see it, people think that they like spliced the film in some goofy way or something. But no, they
hand-painted it or
actually
something?
shot it with her being painted up in black and white coloring, and then her dress was muted. Like they made a special dress to be muted and stuff. Right. So it was really cool.
Also known as acceptable blackface.
Well, it was gray.
Yeah, oh, never mind. It's fine.
And then Alice in Wonderland, I think that they did a really good job with.
Yeah.
The cartoon as well as the Tim Burton versions.
Oh, sure. I forgot that there's Tim Burton versions. But the one person I would trust to do Tim Burton versions to do a movie version of Alice in Wonderland is Tim Burton.
Absolutely.
I don't know that there's anyone else I would trust. Maybe whoever did the good, Del Toro, he did the good Pinocchio of the 2 Pinocchio movies that came out. Yeah. He might have done a pretty good Alice in Wonderland. He does some weird stuff. Jordan Peele would do a really crazy murder one that might be fun with black people somehow. That could be fun. As a matter of fact, I'm going to email that. I think that's a good idea.
You should try it.
I should try it. So here's an idea for you.
Have the black-white queen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to tell him.
Also, I want to do a shout out to Fight Club.
Fight Club?
For confusing so many men over the years.
Fight Club is somehow like the reverse Scarface. Like Scarface men think of as one way and they love it, and Fight Club, they may not quite understand that's what they love, but that's what they love. What
they think they love and what the intent from the author.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally different.
Yeah.
So you gotta give it props for confusing the poor men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice when movies do that. Though it's a little sad when it's not more obvious, so that some of the dudes don't realize that that's what they're enjoying. But alas. Fight Club book? Good?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
That's why I just wanted to give a shout out to it, because I haven't read the book, but I know enough about it and what it actually was supposed to represent. Sure.
I am now curious, because I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about the Fight Club book.
Isn't it Palahniuk? Yeah. I forget how to say his name.
Oh, Chuck Palahniuk. Palahniuk. Oh, yeah, he's good. Oh, it's a 2.5 out of 5 on Goodreads. 96. Sheesh.
Yeah, it's old. I don't think that the book itself got a lot of praise, but, so many people love that movie, but then you actually read the subtext and all the different stuff about it, like, most of them get it wrong.
Yeah. That was his first published novel. Huh.
Wow. That's a good one to start off with.
Yes. What a way to start your career. He's done a lot of things. Fight Club 2 has a graphic novel, which I think I've read. I don't think I remember reading the first one.
Wow.
It was a weird choice I made. Sometimes I make those choices.
That's okay.
Because, I used to try to be like, if you're going to start something, only start it at this point and make sure you only read these ones. And then I realized there are so many things I didn't do if I did it that way. Like, it's just like, I can't look at the Fight Club 2 graphic novel unless I've seen the first one and read the first book. And it's just like, no, it looks interesting enough. Either I'll figure it out, I'll be lost, and then I won't stop reading it. Whatever. Like, sometimes you just do it to do it.
Yeah, you gotta just enjoy as you want as they come.
Now, I mentioned previously graphic novels. Do you guys have any graphic novels? You may not even be interested in them at all. But do you have any graphic novels you ever looked at or read or remember any or are interested in any?
I've read some, but now I can't think of which ones I've read.
The only one I can think of that I've read is Sandman.
Oh, Sandman. Yeah. A lot of my book friends that have only read a few graphic novels have read Sandman.
Yeah.
That's like the one.
So I've done Sandman, and then I've also read like the Sailor Moon manga.
Yes.
And I had some other ones on deck, but I haven't done them yet.
Nice. Any for you, Casey?
I just don't remember what I know I've read some comics and some graphic novels and manga before, but
Right.
nothing that stands
Really
out
stands out.
specifically. I never read like a full series of any
Right.
of them. It was always one-offs.
The only manga that I can remember reading on purpose is One Punch Man. One Punch Man was a webcomic at first, for forever ago, and then he got popular enough that he had it in a little graphic novel. And there's an anime for it, but there's, I think maybe the third season started, but after the first season over, I really wanted the second season, and then I didn't know that there was a manga, and so then I found out the manga already has what they were going to do on there, so I was like, I'll just read the manga. Then I don't have to wait for it.
Yeah. One time I was in the library, this is about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more, and the library had a graphic novel section, and so I would happen to be camped out in that area, or I was walking by, I don't know, and some woman stopped me, and she was very confused, and she was like, how can they have these kinds of books here? And it took me a second to realize that she thought that graphic meant like...
Right. Yeah. She thought it was hentai only over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had to explain to her that no, graphic means like it's a drawing. It's like comic book type thing,
You saved
child.
you saved the library from a sternly written letter
Yeah, I sure did.
or something about
She was
it.
not happy about the graphic novel section.
You really probably saved her some embarrassment about going up front angrily about how could you have these books, and somebody very confusedly being like, "What are you? We're not allowed to have drawings in the library." Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
But webcomics.
Webcomics, yeah.
8-bit theater.
8-bit theater. We were. You and I don't remember why it came up. Did we talk about it on an episode? I feel like we might have.
I don't think it was on an episode.
Okay.
But we did talk about it because I remember you found the videos from where
Yes.
Newgrounds, I think, made the
Right.
the replays of the comics
Yeah.
for the first few episodes. And
So funny. So good.
so why is it we're going through the Giant's Forest anyway? Because beyond it lies the cave of no return. Right. And we would like to go there because...
Black Mage might be my lasting best webcomic character as far as has brought me the most joy over the longest period of time.
Yeah.
Is Black Mage from 8-Bit Theater. And look, a lot of friends of the show also, I remember, are very big fans of 8-Bit Theater. So I might have to go back and read it.
I need to
again.
finish it. I think I only ever got halfway because they weren't done.
One of the few things of that size that I've ever finished is that.
And that was an era where a lot of them were not finishing because I also
Yeah.
read RPG World at the same time, and that guy never finished that series.
Yeah, it's much easier to not,
Yeah.
than it is to go through a big series like that and finish. For those of you that don't know 8-Bit Theater, if you remember Final Fantasy 1 and the sprites from Final Fantasy 1, these are basically those characters, and they're all their personalities are what you would think their personalities would be for those type of characters. Like Black Mage is kind of a crazy, power-hungry magic user that's on the side of good barely, and Fighter is a mostly very dumb, just fighter.
I like sword chokes,
Sword chucks, yes, sword
Yeah.
chucks is his big combat thing, and Red Mage is a min maxer in real life, and White Mage is the only real actual sane person for the most part.
Yeah. One of the first things that Thief ever says is, "Give me your GP or your HP." Which, for those of y'all not in the know, that's
Yeah.
give me your money or your life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, perfect. It's perfect all the way around. No notes. One of the best things ever. Best things ever. And the only other webcomic that I want to mention, there's two webcomics I want to mention. One of them is Chainsaw Suit by Chris Straub. That's just really basically non sequiturs as a comic device, but more importantly, there's a webcomic that is near and dear to my heart that is called Jake Likes Onions. And that's important because you have a shirt with my favorite webcomic of individual webcomics. When I say you, I said Casey because you guys can't see I'm pointing to her.
Yes.
It has my favorite webcomic, which is, I'm not even going to try to say it on here. You guys will have to reach out to me and I'll point it to you. But it's about wolves seeing people running, and it's very funny. And I think about that, especially when I think about Casey and running and athletic stuff. It just makes me laugh. So there we go. Webcomics, Melissa? You read any webcomics?
XKCD.
XKCD, let's fucking go.
I really like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah. Old school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's when I see the webcomic people that are still around, like PvP and
Poorly drawn lines.
Poorly drawn lines, yeah. There's like a lot of them that are still around, and I think it's amazing because it seems harder and harder to make a living off of doing that, and to do it like they do it, you have to actually like be doing it all the time. So shouts out. I can't even finish one video game, more or less do a web series for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. That's crazy. All right. Any other book things that we haven't covered? Do you own any fancy books? Like books in a fancy case, or something that a book that stands out to your brain more than other books?
Somebody just gave me the Zelda chronology, and that was pretty cool.
That is a pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool looking book. Whoever did that is amazing.
Real good friend.
What an amazing person.
Yeah.
I remember I was sitting on that for a while. I don't remember why. I just didn't remember to bring it over. But the reason I got that is that I was watching a outside Xbox video, and they were talking about Zelda lore. And they said, oh, yeah, we got this specific lore from this book. And I went, there's a book that has the Zelda lore? And so then I went out and got it immediately. I didn't even think I was going to be able to get my hands on one. I thought it was like going to be a super special, but it is still pretty fancy. It's pretty fancy. I like encyclopedias in general. My parents used to have the whole set of Funk and Wagnall encyclopedia, and those had nice fancy covers. They always smelled. They just smelled like encyclopedias should smell. You know what I mean? Like whatever you imagine encyclopedias should smell like, that's what they smelled like. We never used them as much as it was worth owning them.
Yeah.
You know, like I think there's probably some letters that maybe never had gotten open. I wish I knew where they were. I wonder if they still have them. I don't think they do.
I have a special edition of one of the Harry Potter books.
Oh, nice.
I think it's Order of the Phoenix. But it's not like that special. That's probably the fanciest book I own.
Do you have any signed books?
No.
I have one signed book. It's just a book about the greatest teams in college football history that the writer, I bought it from him directly and he signed it for me.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah. I see book signings and I think, man, if I just didn't hate standing in line, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, I would like to do it just to tell the author, hey, you have this book that I really like and I appreciate it. But nothing else about the process could matter to me at all. Like, I don't need your signature inside this book.
Yeah.
It doesn't do. I'm not going to sell it. So just thanks for writing the book, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of that reminds me, I saw a video recently of a girl that went shopping at Barnes & Noble or some random bookstore. And this goes back to Melissa's.
Oh my God, I've seen this. I wish this happened to me.
Brandon Sanderson just happened to be there,
Yes.
and the girl's like, yeah, I was actually looking for one of your books. I'm getting started
I've seen that
reading
video.
it, and he recommended Mistborn.
Yeah, there you go.
And people argue about which of his books to start, which series to start out of his collection of stuff, and he himself said Mistborn.
He said Mistborn. I think that's the way to go.
I think Mistborn is the correct choice.
Yeah.
Not just because I love him, but because it's just it's really gives you the sense of what his writing style is without having to like jump into something a little bit more intense.
Yeah, I like that. If you guys don't know, O.B. San, he's a Utah boy. And so I've met him. He comes to all of the Salt Lake Fan X's, and he always talks to everybody. And, I know 100 people that love him. So I've been in front of him in line while people talk with him. I didn't have anything to talk to him about. So I was just like, hey, cool, man. Yo, bro.
I'd really like to go to his convention. It's totally off topic.
Does he have? He has his own convention. Is it just a book convention, or is it a convention about his stuff?
It's a convention about his stuff, and it's called what's his? He has a company. It's like Dragon something.
And is it just mostly him and 500 of his closest friends?
Yeah.
Man.
Maybe it's not Dragon. I can't remember his name. But anyway, he has his own convention once a year. And I think it is in Utah. But, just something I want to do sometime.
Yeah. I didn't even realize that he did one of those. I bet it would be I'm sure that it's a hot ticket.
Dragonsteel Nexus.
Dragonsteel.
At the Salt Palace Convention Center.
Oh, at the Salt Palace Convention Center, which doesn't exist anymore. Oh, no, it does exist. It's just been cut in half.
Oh.
Yeah, they just did renovations and they stuck something in there. So they were talking to me, my friends were talking to me about FanX there, and they said it's just much more cloistered because half of it's gone now. So they stuck everybody in closer together. Because it's all just in one building. I'm like, everybody should just do what Atlanta does in Dragon Con and just take up all your hotels.
Yeah.
It's just the way you got to do it.
Dragon Con knows how to do it.
I agree. Okay. We covered books and other things, and everybody should read more, right? I think we can agree about that.
Absolutely.
I mean, you guys are in a book club, so you guys know. You guys know what this is.
Just finished our first book for book club.
Yep.
And now many more to go.
One can only hope.
Yeah. Although I guess we didn't say what our most recent read was.
Well, yeah. Talk about the book club read.
So the book club was The Memory Librarian by Janelle Monáe. And it's like a futuristic kind of dystopian future, but it kind of ends with hope, and it was really interesting.
Is it a YA novel?
What's
No.
YA?
YA.
An adult. No, it's not.
Okay.
And it's actually a series of short stories set in this future.
Oh.
But I don't know, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, that seems like a good book club book. A bunch of short stories together.
Yeah. There's 4 or 5 different short stories, and they're all just different enough that they don't seem like they're the same.
Right.
They're very different stories while also still being in the same world. So you'll have the one that's your favorite or the one that you can recognize.
What did we rate it? Did you guys give it a rating?
We didn't rate it.
No, we didn't.
Okay, let's do it right now. 5 stars. What are you giving it?
I think I'd give it a 4. It was engaging.
4 out of 5 stars. Casey?
Yeah, I think 3.5 for me.
3.5.
Yeah. A couple of the stories I didn't love as much, and it was a little bit of a harder read for those, but a couple of them I really enjoyed. So I think overall 3.5, 4.
So we got a 3.75.
Yeah.
Consensus.
There you go. A little bit unhinged official review of, what was it called?
The Memory Librarian.
The Memory Library, which shows you how much I was paying attention. I got none of that Memory Library. Gets an official 3.75 stars.
Yep.
I'll make sure I post that on the website.
Like it.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and thank you again for being here, Melissa, for your second exciting episode.
My pleasure.
I hope we didn't scare you away from coming back. My next plan is to get both you and Karen on an episode.
Ooh.
That
would be exciting.
Yeah, that's the big want. We'll just have a whole romper room of excitement. Maybe, matter of fact, maybe I'll just have you guys on it. I won't be on it. I'll just do ladies' night it up.
Ladies' night.
Well, we need somebody to set up all the equipment.
No, I mean, I'll still be here. But I'll literally be just and producer Garrett's here. And I'll be on the mic everybody sounds good. Hi, everyone. And just push the mic away.
You can control the mascots.
That's right. And I'll be on mascot duty. This is a better and better idea. The more I think about it, we might have to make this happen. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for listening.
Bye.
Bye.